I think the ambitions for my current role are very much in keeping with, with how we started out 5.5 years ago when I joined Dentsu, which is to help build the first global communications group born out of Asia, with uniquely Asian roots, which gives us a license to do things differently, that are in line with our 118 years old history. When actually a guy called Mitsunaga-san, who was a journalist, founded the company, and he embraced the telegraph, which, believe it or not, was at that point of time the biggest invention. And he used it as a way to reach more people faster, which sounds pretty contemporary to me. And even more interesting, he called the company Dentsu. And 2 out of the 4 characters that make up Dentsu actually stand for New Age communication. And for me, that is, as a brand guy, that's a gold nugget. It also explains how we have evolved over the last 118 years. And I think should give us a good pathway or a good North Star for how we should evolve going forward. I think today, where the world is bigger at the same time smaller, because you can be everywhere more quickly and instantaneously, I don't think it's necessarily about having a flag everywhere, but of course it's about where the clients are and where the talent is. And that will be pretty much 2 filters that we will be applying as we think about expanding. But it's not so much expanding, because expanding almost is size focused. I like to emphasize quality. Well, Dentsu is pretty much present everywhere in Asia Pacific, but true to some of our Japanese Asian roots, we're not that extrovert. We've not gone outside, and it might not be known to a lot of people that we actually are pretty big in Asia Pac. And we, of course, we're in the US, we are in Canada, we're in Brazil, we're in Argentina. But there's still a job to be done in the other geographies. It's very gratifying to see that now, in the past it was pretty much Tokyo that was pulling the cart, and now all the investments, the strategy of creating lighthouses across the region or across the globe is bearing fruit, because now we see more and more offices actually chipping in. And so particularly this year it's been very much about Australia and the Philippines, which had great work like Dead Whale or Revoice. It's very gratifying to see that, yes. And not just in Cannes, but of course also in AdFest earlier this year, where we became Network of the Year again, and also in Spike. So what I like is actually the consistency, because it's great to win a Lion. Of course, I'll take it any day. But for me, it's really about consistency and sustainability of performance. And where the industry is going, well, it's all kinds of platitudes come to mind, or cliches, it's like transformation and change is a constant. But it is, undoubtedly things are going faster due to technology, even due to increased globalization. Even there are 1 or 2 characters around the world in high positions that would like to stifle that. But it is becoming a much more of a global place. And interestingly, I think it's the most exciting time to be in this industry. Because in the end of the day, one of the byproducts of a digital economy is that things get commoditized quicker, which puts a bigger emphasis on creativity and ideas, which puts a bigger emphasis also on brands. In today's world, where you can be everywhere instantaneously, 24/7, and there's a lot of fragmentation, actually the brand fundamentals become more important. But how you manage a brand in modern times, in this context, that of course is the trick. And in the old days, agencies were very adept at making complex things simple, and I think that still holds true. About delivering every day, because in the end of the day, in this world of high context and high touch, brands need to be in relationship with the consumer every time. Also, they need to be able to capitalize on the connection, the shorter distance between connectivity and commerce. And so that means always on, always trying to capitalize. And I think there's a very good role for agencies in there, if we can master how we manage brands differently in today's context. For me, consultancies coming into our space, I think it's great. Oh, an interesting sound effect. But I think it's great because in a way it kind of is an extra validation for an industry that in the past was a little bit frowned upon. You know, the quote about 50%, and John Haggerty in his lunch with the FT referred to it. So I think, you know, the consultancy moving into our space means we must be doing something really valuable, and I've always convinced of that we do. Why else would you know, big packaged goods and major brands engage our services? But I think you can't just look at all the consultancies in one, lump them in one pot, because there are some of the consultancies that are having a very big accountancy practice, and that is under threat because of machine learning and AI. They will lose large parts of their revenue, so they're moving from a defensive position. And then there are some consultancies that are moving from a more offensive positions that do not have these business dynamics. And of course we take them very serious because it keeps us on our toes. It should sharpen our game. In the end of the day, brand becomes even more important. Brands, big organizing ideas, really knowing, having a compass, having a North Star for that brand, and then being able to create unique brand experiences around that. And unique brand experiences are not confined to just communication. So you know, I think that is the big opportunity, and that's definitely what we see as the big opportunity, which should be right up the alley of Dentsu, because we never have defined ourselves just as advertising, as evidenced by our name, as evidence about our evolution. And we'll definitely going forward. And you know, that's why we see our mission very much about being about moving business, moving people. And so, but the realization is that you can now do that with a huge plethora of means. So what is then that right constellation, that right mix every time? Talents, it's interesting, because talents is a combination of skill set and mindset. And I think in a way we need to embrace different skill sets, because as I said, you know, you manage brands differently, and you just refer to social platforms and what have you, and technology. By the way, I think you can have, tech is important, data is important, media is hugely important, but in the end of the day, to create the magic, you need to have creativity. So it's really about the amalgamation of all those four parts, which is why I think, you know, that Dentsu Regions network is ideally suited, because we have these capabilities and we bring them together in a unique operating model, which is the one P&L. But the trick is to keep having the right capabilities. So that's one part. And then it's about the mindset, because I think a lot of people confuse innovation with technology. I call that mentech. You know, people, it's like a mentech dilemma. It's not about technology, it's actually about mentality. So I think it's, you know, having the right talent that have the right mindset, that can reiterate themselves, that can reinvent themselves into 2.0, 3.0. It's not about companies, it's also about individuals that have this big appetite to be curious and to run into the direction of your fear. So yeah, if you say you're looking for that talent, yeah, that's always a bit scarce. When I started with Dentsu, you know, I think you know, one of the missions was to globalize. You globalize by being a resemblance of the globe, and that means diversity in all shapes or forms, not just over gender. You know, and I really support the whole diversity debate, but I think it's too much played out over gender only, and I think it should be about all its aspects. You know, color, ethnicity, race, outlook on life, orientation, and that really makes up a diverse group, and that will create friction, the right friction and magic.